Call to order the May 12th edition of Midwest City Council. Day 62 of the COVID virus lockdown, and we're working through it. I would like to invite Mr. Sullivan down to offer the invocation. Ms. Bowen to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So would you please stand?
Gracious Lord, we thank you so much for this occasion, Lord. And Father, we're blessed in this city to have men and women who are willing to serve in this capacity. And we thank you for them. We thank you for their sacrifice. And we ask that your blessing be upon them tonight, your wisdom and your discernment. You give them peace in their decisions. Father, we thank you for the great city that we live in and all those who serve this community in a professional way on a daily basis. Father, we're very blessed with very talented and dedicated and loyal people. We thank you for all of them, Lord, and we ask you to give them protection. And Father, help us to stay healthy. Father, we have a great nation, a great state. We're blessed in this country to have freedoms to assemble and to worship and do a lot of things that you just can't do around most of the world. And we have men and women who are dedicated to preserving those freedoms, and they're all over the world tonight serving this great country. I ask your protection. I ask peace be with them, and give their families comfort, Lord, as they're away from home, and those who serve domestically as well. Ultimately, Father, we're blessed to have the greatest example of service that could ever be shown by the giving of your Son, Jesus. We thank you so much for that blood that was shed on the cross for us. We ask these favors in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. We'll move into our community-related announcements. Ms. Eads, you have anything for us? Mr. Lyon?
Yes. Starting with information about the Midwest City's current ordinance related to COVID-19 is continually updated on the front page of our website, midwestcityok.org. Get updates and notifications by the city by clicking on the Stay Connected button on our homepage. Second, quarterly curbside bulk waste collection began yesterday in Zone 7, Sooner to Douglas, and Northeast 10th to 23rd. For all the city openings, we highly recommend that people follow the CDC guidelines to keep themselves and others safe, with a reminder of wearing masks wherever you can and being required in restaurants for the servers and in salons and barber shops. They're required that the beauticians and barbers wear masks by ordinance. On May 15th, the municipal court will reopen. Masks are required. The public parks and playgrounds, including the basketball and tennis courts, will reopen on May 15th. On June 1st, our opening will include the Reno Swim and Slide is on track to open, providing we have enough staff that can be hired to operate the pool safely. The Senior Center reopens on June 1st. Safety measures will be implemented and masks are required. Provisions are currently being made to start up our recreational softball and Little League sports in June. And finally, the Community Center and Pavilion rentals will resume on June 1st as well. I thought the court, yes.
The courts have actually been holding docket since May 4th, Monday.
Okay. Yeah, this is incorrect then. Thank
And
you.
I'm sorry, Tim, when did you say the senior center reopens?
June 1st.
And I was just going to highlight this because some people brought this to my attention and it was on the news this morning, but the library is doing curbside pickup. They've resumed that recently, so you can reserve a book online and pick it up at the curb. So
Yep.
Okay, is there anything else? Huh? Well, that's quite all right. I just wanted to share with the council and staff that I got a letter a couple of days ago. Due to the COVID virus and everything, she wasn't able to do much of anything, but Jane Sutter from Boys and Girls Club is retiring, effective immediately. She's been a good friend of the city and just been really a good partner for the city. Her replacement is Tina Belsick. I think she's second in command there at the Boys and Girls Club. And as soon as we can, we're going to bring her out and meet everybody. And as soon as things lighten up a little bit and we can get her out here. But that's a big loss, but I want to wish her the best in her retirement. Okay, we've got a convoluted agenda, so bear with me tonight as we work through this. First off, we'll go into our consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda.
Mayor,
I'm sorry.
proclamation.
Oh, I forgot. We're going to retire somebody. I'm sorry, Dave. No, we got 3. I was just kidding. Trust me. The first one I'll read from up here. It's whereas May 16th, 2020 is the 10th annual Kids to Parks Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust. And whereas Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks, public lands, and waters. Whereas it is important to introduce the new generation to our parks, and whereas we should encourage children to lead more active lifestyles to combat the issues of child obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and hardening of the arteries. Whereas Kids to Parks Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large, diverse group of participants. And whereas Kids to Park Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and outdoors. Therefore, I, Matt Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim May 16th, 2020 as Kids to Parks Day and urge all citizens to get out off the couch and go enjoy our parks. We got another one. Okay. David and Teresa? Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Huff and his beautiful wife, Teresa. Turn around and we've known each other for a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. About 30 some odd years. David has decided to retire from the police department. Sad day, but I know it's a good day for you guys. So I'm going to read this and get on with it. Whereas Major David Huff began his employment with Midwest City in May of 1992 as a police officer and retiring in May of 2020. Whereas Major David Huff has received several letters of appreciation, Chief of Police commendations, and Officer of the Quarter awards. Whereas he is a recipient of one of the highest honors awarded to police officer, the Presidential Public Safety Officer Medal of Valor for his heroic actions to save a young girl on June 17, 2013. And whereas throughout his career, David was brave, dependable, initiative, intuitive during difficult situations, has made him a great leader, and his expertise in drug recognition, negotiations, and training will be greatly missed. Whereas he is an instructor of the University of Oklahoma University, State University. I can't get that out, Ron.
It's the mask. The mask calls him that.
Oklahoma State University, teaching standardized field sobriety testing, a CLEAT certified drug recognition expert, and lead instructor of several Midwest City Police academies. Whereas Major Huff has not only worked to keep Midwest City citizens safe, but also volunteered with such programs as Shop with a Cop and Bowling with Badges. That's an oldie but goodie one. So therefore, I, Matthew Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim May 12th, 2020 as Major Huff Day. In the city of Midwest City, do hereby urge all citizens to show their appreciation to David for his service and contributions to our community. David's going to be sorely missed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Man, that's the nicest you've ever been to me. This week is Police Recognition Week. This year so far, we've lost 72 police officers nationwide. Last year, we lost 238 police officers to suicide. This is the face of your Midwest City Police Department. I wish I could have more of them up here, but they're out doing the job of protecting our community. So, with that being said, whereas National Police Week is to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. The dedicated men and women who have chosen law enforcement as a career face extraordinary risks and dangers in preserving our freedom and security. And whereas it is fitting and proper that we express our gratitude for the dedicated service and courageous deeds of law enforcement officers and the contributions they have made to the security and well-being of all of our people. Whereas by joint resolution approved by October 1st, 1962, the Congress has requested that the President designate May 15th of each year as Police Officer Memorial Day in the calendar week in which May 15th occurs. Whereas the members of the Midwest City Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of our community, I therefore, Matt Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim the week of May 11th through the 15th, 2020 as Police Week in the city of Midwest City, and publicly salute the service of our law enforcement officers in all of our communities across the nation and urge citizens to show their appreciation for all of our police officers. Okay, now we can get on to the consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the council, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all, yes? I'm sorry? I can. Is it going to be heard or? Okay. I told you this was going to be contentious. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all council or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, be removed and heard in regular order. So the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing item 17.
Motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 17.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Ms. Poole, I see that this is your item, so you want to go ahead?
Item 17 is asking for surplus items to be disposed of but the 2 pages that are attached to the cover memo are not the correct items. The only items that are being surplused are the 2 chairs, the desk, the file cabinet, and the refrigerator. And so I just ask that someone make a motion approving the items that are listed on the cover memo.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. We get into the discussion items. Discussion item number 1, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion item number 1, PC 2042, discussion and consideration of approval of the proposed Madison Addition preliminary plat described as part of the northwest quarter of Section 1, Township 11 North, Range 2 West, located at 500 and 600 Davidson Road and 527 and 531 St. Paul Avenue. Mr. Harless.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. This item is a request to subdivide approximately 18 acres, or 4 parcels, into 51 individual parcels for single-family development. Access to the subdivision will be via Davidson Road, St. Paul Avenue. The applicant is proposing water and sewer line extensions to serve all the lots. The Parkland Review Committee recommended approval of the dedication of 2.04 acres of private parkland to be maintained by the Homeowners Association. Tree preservation will be required with the subdivision. The applicant has requested a waiver to the prohibition of lots backing onto the local street as 2 lots and a small portion of another lot back onto Davidson Road. If this preliminary plat is approved, the applicant may submit construction plans for all required public improvements. Before we move on, because I don't often get to say thanks to people on helping this subdivision, but one, Mr. Campbell, the applicant and one of the owners, but also Mr. Ballou. I know we've seen both of these items previously, or most of us have, and both those applicants have brought back together a better project, an overall project, and worked with staff and Mr. Burns, Councilman Byrne. I appreciate you helping expedite that and kind of facilitate that to make for an overall better project for the community. I know that not everyone was real happy with how this was taking place to start with, but as you see from this project, overall you'll get better traffic circulation, safety, and just an overall better project. Through the Planning Commission, it was done via Skype and in person. There were a couple of questions that came in through message on Skype, and I want to make sure that we address those in case that person is here or in case they're listening. One of them was about the traffic signals that would either be at one of these intersections as they came out into the arterial. We, as a practice, do not require those with residential subdivisions until there's a warrant. Warrant needs those to happen, such as accidents or traffic jams or something along those lines. At that time, there's usually a petition or something that's brought to the council or to staff requesting those. We circulate that petition, or the applicant circulates that petition, and then we take it through the traffic and safety to get their recommendation, and then that's brought to the council to act upon their recommendation. Another thing was drainage, as always, is an issue, especially in this area. We have again contracted with an outside consultant to double check everybody's work involved in this, and when those improvement plans are submitted, they'll be revisited and acted on accordingly. The other one that came up was whether there'd be an increase of crime or anything like that. And I know that Mr. Campbell's history in the community, he's built very quality homes, and so we don't anticipate that to be really an issue with the quality of subdivision and stuff that he builds. And one other question was, would there be half-street improvements on Davidson? And yes, there will be. So at that time, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Most of the people on the council remember that this was the project that about 2/3 of the council chambers was filled up with the red shirts. And there's only one of them here tonight. And he's going to talk, but This is a huge win for all of us. And I'm sure that Mr. Ballou will agree with it, Mr. Campbell and Mr. Melton, because this is a completely different project than what got turned down. And this is what the residents over there wanted. This is the quality of homes that we need in Midwest City.
Does,
Well, Mr. Campbell's there and Mr. Ballou, so we'll let them, the specifics.
does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Harless? Mr. Melton, could you come to the podium, please, and state your name and address for us?
My name's David Melton. I live at 520 South St. Paul, Midwest City. And there's actually two of us here. We have somebody else here too, but I just have a couple things to say. The first thing is I really want to thank the mayor, the council for listening to us during our first, I guess, contention during the development. We didn't feel like that was what our area needed or the city of Midwest City. And I'm under the impression now that, it's Mr. Campbell and Mr. Ballou. Of course, everybody knows long-term citizens that are outstanding people in our community and will do it right. And we respect them greatly. And I really haven't been able to get throughout the neighborhood, with everything that's going on. I didn't see a real need to this time. And I expect great things out of this project, so I'm not here to fight it. I'm here to let you all know that I think this is what we need, or exactly kind of what we were looking for. Our previous development, it was not anything personal against Mr. Ballou. It had to be with the developer and his ideas. And you can see his ideas across the street in Reno, and that's not what Midwest City needs. I don't remember how many houses were built there, but it was like 30-some, 3 of them were sold, and 27 were rentals. So I'm not here against the project. I'm here looking forward to it and hoping that it'll be great for our neighborhood.
Thank you, David. And I just want to point out that what your group did is a perfect example of what can happen when people get together and are aware of what's going on in their city government and come together with a purpose. And we appreciate what you guys did.
Well, it takes you all listening and understanding and, I guess, hearing us. So thank you.
You bet. Thank you, David. Is there any? Mr. Campbell, Mr. Ballou, do you all have anything to say to the council? Other than get it done? Okay. Does anybody have any other questions or comments? With that being, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve with the waiver included for the, what they've asked for.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. It's approved. Thank you guys for being here. Moving to discussion item number 2, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion and consideration of the health premiums for the fiscal year 2020-2021 and amounts necessary to cover the projected expenditures and for the employee health plan to be actuarially sound, and the adoption of the Employee Life and Health Committee recommendations to continue current enhancements to the health plan. Mr. Bradley.
Good evening. As the monthly reports have shown, the Employee Life and Health Plan has struggled a bit this year due to a variety of circumstances. Based on the actuarial data, the projections, and some budgetary measures that we made, the Life and Health Committee is recommending a 12% increase to all monthly premiums. For the active employees, that 12% will be split 50-50 between the employees and the city. For the retirees, it will be on the 60-40 split that was previously agreed upon. This will help us to keep up with the usage of the health plan and not necessarily help build any fund balance this coming year, but keep us at least with projections at least not too far in the red. We also have some savings and some increased transparency and processes that we're putting in place to make the plan better, more sound, and more sustainable.
Now, we've gone 2 years without a premium increase, correct?
Last year there was a premium increase. 2 years ago there was not.
It was a very small
It was
premium
small,
increase.
yeah.
So that's kind of my point, is there are a lot of people over the last couple of years that have their rates raised a lot more than the 12% that's being raised right here. It's a tough thing to ask our employees in our city to pay it, but I feel that you guys have done a really good job of maintaining cost as well as you can.
We are definitely trying our best.
As Mr. Bradley said, we got that budget the best we could. The actuary was actually recommending a 15% rate increase, over a 15% increase. We tried to keep it at 12 with some cost-cutting measures, just because this isn't the best year to be hitting our employees with an increase. But this is the best we can do and still maintain. We're going to try to keep $1 million fund balance in there.
Mr. Lyons, it's my understanding that you are researching a sustainable funding mechanism for our health benefits plan. Is that correct?
We're working on ideas.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any question of Mr. Bradley or Mr. Lyon?
I make a motion to approve this.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Appreciate it. Move into discussion item number 3. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion and consideration of one, approval of the proposed 2020 through 2024 consolidated plan and strategy and associated 2020 action plan for the use of the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG. 2, authorization of the mayor to submit the approved and/or modified certification to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And 3, authorization of the mayor and city manager enter into the necessary contracts to implement said program. Ms. Kraft.
Honorable Mayor and Council, the Consolidated Plan is a 5-year comprehensive planning document that identifies Midwest City's priority housing and non-housing community development needs and outlines a strategy to address those needs within the CDBG program. An approved consolidated plan is a requirement for continued funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The action plan contains a description of activities to be undertaken during fiscal year 2020-21 using CDBG funds as recommended by the Citizens Advisory Committee on Housing and Community Development. It also serves as Midwest City's application for 2020 Community Development Block Grant funding. Sorry to take up so much room in the agenda, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I would like to point out in this grant, and we'll talk more later in budget sessions, but with the additional funding from, Terry, you might want to talk about that you were able to take the Boys and Girls Club through the process and we can fund it out of here instead of the general fund.
One of the things that the CARES Act did was loosen up some of the requirements with CDBG funding. And typically, we have a 15% cap that we can't go beyond with public services. This year, they've allowed 2019 and 2020 for the cap to be eliminated. So that way, we were able to fund Boys and Girls Club this year.
So I just want to make a comment really quickly. Part on track and part not on track. But since you've joined us this evening, your creativity and imagination with regard to dealing with grant programs is greatly appreciated. And I just want to highlight the fact that I have a now constituent who is a homeowner in my ward because she was able to, in spite of the COVID-19 issues, work with you to get first-time home buyer assistance from the grant program. And she couldn't be more elated to be a first-time home buyer. And so I just wanted to publicly thank you for all of your hard work on the grant programs and your creativity, Terry. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I have to admit, though, I have a great staff.
Does anyone have any further questions? And please, Ms. Kraft will bring those amendments to me. I will not make those amendments, so if there's any needed. So with that being said, Chair to entertain a motion.
Move to approve. And second?
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Kraft, I appreciate it. Discussion item number 5, Mr. Lyon. Now, this is an addendum that should have been in front of you when you got here.
Well, we still have 4 to do. Hang on, let's do 4.
Did I skip
That's
one?
another companion one to Terry. So 4 is discussion and consideration of 1, approval of proposed substantial amendment to the 2019 action plan for the use of special allocation of HUD Community Development Block Grant COVID-19 CDBG CV funds, and 2, authorization of the mayor to submit amendment and any certifications to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and 3, authorizing the mayor and city manager enter into necessary contracts to implement said program. Terry?
Midwest City was fortunate to be able to receive some of the benefits of this CARES Act. Since we are an entitlement CDBG community, we were able to receive a supplemental distribution of funds to be used towards the COVID pandemic. These funds are used, or should be used, to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus pandemic and its effects on low-income households and communities. These funds are supposed to be used as gap funds and cannot replace some of the other funding streams out there. Again, the 15% cap on public services was relaxed, and what we are proposing is a new public service activity. And this will benefit low-mod residents financially impacted by the COVID-19 through job loss, furlough, or other related event. The activity would be a housing stability assistance program designed to assist with delinquent utility, rent, or mortgage payments tied directly to the effects of the pandemic. We're currently working with the Community Action Agency of Oklahoma City and Oklahoma and Canadian counties. And actually the city of Oklahoma City is also working with them. So we're hoping we can do a very similar program, and this will be out of our local community or our Community Action office, and that is at the Neighborhoods in Action Center. But I'm happy to answer any questions there, too.
I think that sounds wonderful. Move to approve. Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Thank you again, Terry. Now we can go on to item number 5, Mr. Lyons. This is the addendum that you should have found when you came in.
Yes, Mayor. Addendum 5, discussion and consideration approving amendment number 4 to the construction management contract with CMS Willowbrook, Inc. for the Delta Midwest City Pool and Fitness Area renovation, amount not to exceed $372,800.63. So what this is an addendum to the CMS Willowbrook contract that allows us to go ahead and start working on the pool that needs renovation work. We had some money already budgeted for the pool, but it needs more work. There's a humidifier that has to be replaced and other work because of the lack of dehumidification, which is somewhat substantial as this contract is. And then under the Delta agreement, we have to upgrade the fitness center, and so it's going to have a renovation. And so with what's going on now, we're still in the process of getting the model rooms done. They're construction-wise done, but we haven't received the FF&E, and so that has to go through the buyer's contract that we approved at council meeting, I believe last time or the time before. I'm not sure which. I've lost track of time when you get my age. But so anyway, we can start on this renovation now instead of waiting for the future renovation and waiting for people from New York and Marriott to come down and approve the model rooms.
So I'm going to go on record as saying, and the convention center's got my family's name on it, but if we have an opportunity to sell that in the hotel at some point, I'm all for it. No, I'm not for losing money. I'm for us to try and break even on it. I know that there's some on the council in the city that would like to have control, but it's a continual hole in our capital account. And I don't really care what the name is on it. And I would just say that I think for the betterment of the city over the next 20 or 30 years, an owner that actually does hotels, is their main source of income, probably will run it better than what a city ever could.
There
And
were
then we
certainly-
wouldn't have to go through in 15, 20 years from now and spend another $4 or $5 million to update it again.
And that's something after we get done with the renovation, which is funded, we can look at fair market value and those sort of things and we'll create a study with council approval. And one thing I will tell you that because we are owned by the trust, the municipal trust, we were not eligible for any CARES Act money or any of the PPP money. And as a result, we have 7 people employed out of about 60 over there at this time. So you'll see that in the next financial statement, but we have cut that thing back as much as we can until we start seeing hotel rooms come back, and let me finish. But anyway, so that there has been, that has been a disadvantage, I will tell you. Just
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Heather wants to say something.
Well, if there are questions about what was sent to the contractors who provided the quotes and the information that will be sent out for the bid on the HVAC and mechanics, the plans and the bid specs are up front.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion or questions, Mr. Line? Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
And Mr. Mayor, if we could go back to the consent agenda and pull item 9 to have no action and re-vote on the consent without item 9.
We can go back and vote on stuff?
We're gonna have to re-vote.
I thought that beforehand, once we move forward, we could readdress an issue that we already voted on. We've been told no several times before.
Yeah. Just have to, well, we'll be presenting an amended, item 9 on May 26th.
It's just a bad
Yeah.
precedent to start.
Yeah.
So you'll be presenting an amendment next, okay.
Yeah.
It's probably the best course of action. Move into our new business public discussion. Is there anyone that has anything to bring back before the With that being said, we do have an executive session attached to this agenda. Mr. Lyon, you want to go ahead and read that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. F1, executive session, discussion and consideration of entering into executive session is allowed under 25 OS Section 307B4 to discuss pending claims or actions where a public body, at the advice of its attorney, determines that disclosure will seriously impair the ability of the public body to process the claims or conduct pending litigation or proceedings in the public interest.
And number 2?
And number 2, discussion, consideration, entering into an executive session is allowed under Title 25 Oklahoma Statute, Section 307B1, to discuss the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, or resignation of any individual salaried public officer or employee.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask that the council's indulgence in recessing from the council agenda and moving on, and we'll come back to the executive session, and I would need a motion to do so. Actually, recess. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I call to order the Special Economic Development Authority. We do have a consent agenda, and these items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
And
I
a
just wanted
motion
to-
is second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Want to go over the changes?
Do what?
Heather's passing out changes to the one in your, the audit.
Addendum
that we-
item number 3, we had a late minute change about 4:30 this afternoon.
Yes.
You want to explain what that change is?
And
real
the
quick before
change
we
is,
vote?
well, there's
Okay.
2 different audit reports.
Well, let's pull it.
Hey, so I'm
Well,
gonna make another
They can't.
whatever comment that I'm gonna make.
Are they not going to vote?
And I'm not getting on anybody because I don't have any power to get on anybody except for the city manager. Addendums to the council agenda are make it very difficult for councilmen who work to be able to stay up. Is there any way we can stop the addendums?
You will see less addendums after what we've been through this council meeting. But
She's talking about pulling it, but it needs to be, the management rep letter needs to be approved to get the audit issued by the
yeah,
bond
we
deadline.
can pull it and address it separately. We can do items 1 and 2.
Okay, everybody take a breath. So item 3 of the consent agenda, we're going to pull because they're an addendum, and then we'll
Oh, okay.
hear it in regular discussion, correct?
Yes.
We're pulling it because you guys wanted to, if we want to discuss it, that's why it's being pulled, not because it's a discussion.
We can't hear her.
Who said we wanted a discussion?
On the one item,
You
number
want
3.
discussion?
Just explain what the changes are.
That's where addendums are difficult.
Move
Okay.
to approve items 1 and 2 of the consent agenda and to pull addendum item 3 from the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Okay, item number 3 of the consent
Okay.
agenda.
Item number 3, we have new draft audit reports on that are different from your agenda. And what changed on the STC2 audit on pages 16 through 19, none of the numbers changed on those pages, but they added wording at the bottom of each page that just gives definitions of how the numbers were calculated. And then on the Sooner Town Center audit, it's pages 18 through 21, and it's the same situation where the schedules did not change, the numbers didn't change, but they added explanatory language at the bottom of the pages, and these were requested by their auditor.
Christie's just doing her fiduciary responsibility.
These changes were put on by the firm that did this?
By Grant Thornton, yes, that's the firm that audited Sooner Town
So,
Center.
I'll make a statement to them. These are really important things that come out every single year. They shouldn't be doing changes
At the
up to
last
day
minute.
before it's due. How much are we paying these people?
We don't pay them, Colette and them pay them, but
But these are sending-
I've let them know we were not happy with this situation.
All right, so let Colette and let Stern know that we're not happy, because this is not the kind of stuff that we need to be doing at the very last minute on really big deals.
I agree, they sent those over at 4:30 this afternoon.
This is the kind of thing that unless it was had to have been done, probably should have been moved to 2 weeks from now.
They
Yeah,
do have to
they
turn these
have a
audits in
deadline.
on the bonds that we've issued by like May 15th. So there is a rush, but again,
They're getting paid a good amount of money by somebody.
I agree.
And I understand that there are, especially during this time, there are time constraints. But getting it to the very last day, when we actually have a little bit of time that we could have done it, isn't appropriate. And I hope that somebody forwards the YouTube video of me saying I think that they were irresponsible in this.
So if I can jump in here, Christie.
Yes.
So you're the subject matter expert in the room, so are you comfortable with the content of these reports?
I am. I mean, they've been audited. The audit says
that they're correct, so, I mean, I trust that. I haven't seen the supporting documentation, obviously, but, you know, I trust that the audit firm followed audit standards, which I said they did, and they're required to, so,
But I have a question. So they sent a whole new packet over,
yes,
and they said this is all we've changed.
yes.
Did you read every single word to make sure they didn't change something else?
I skimmed through and made make sure they were the same.
So that's a problem for me. We don't know
Yeah.
for sure whether another word in there's been changed.
I did check the numbers very closely.
When does this have to be approved?
By Friday, essentially.
Yeah, this Friday.
Don't have a choice?
Well, we have a choice, but they wouldn't meet their deadline on the bond
I
agreement.
understand. I'm not happy about voting something that our finance director has not read word for word to make sure nothing's changed.
I guess we're looking for direction from you, Ms. Barron. If you're comfortable with this, then it's fine, we'll move
I'm
forward.
not gonna be comfortable with it, Matt. She's not read every word, comparative. And it's not your fault. Christie, I'm not
Yeah.
upset with you at all. This is not your fault. This is a national firm that knows better,
They do.
that got paid probably a pretty good chunk of change to do this.
Yes.
They knew the deadline that was coming up. I'm not comfortable voting on something that you haven't read word for word to make sure it's the same.
And that's perfectly acceptable.
What
I'm
in
glad to be
effect,
honest.
what in effect will it have?
They would not meet their disclosure deadline. That would be posted on a website, and in reality, there'd probably be very little impact from that.
Who stands to have the impact, Colette or the company that did this?
It would be Colette. It goes on, they're the ones that are responsible for the
They're the ones that
disclosure.
hired this guy. I'm
But
not-
and maybe they wouldn't hire the same firm again if this happened to them.
If this is gone for a vote, I'm gonna vote no.
Well, we do have an issue on the floor, and the chair to entertain a motion.
What, you're our attorney.
Well, we could decide to do an emergency meeting to allow staff to have time to do it, but we've been trying because you all have done so many. We've been trying to avoid emergency meetings because we've had so many lately already.
But quite honestly, this is not our emergency that none of us in here created.
Agreed.
And that's the thing. I don't think that we need to jump through hoops, because we've jumped through a lot of hoops for our citizens. We've done everything that we can, and I understand that I can tell you as a tax accountant and a tax professional that we are considered essential, so they didn't have to send anybody home. In any state in the United States of America, they are considered essential employees. They did not have to go to the house. All right, I'm really irked at something like this at the very last minute. I'm gonna vote no if it comes up, and I don't wanna have a special meeting either. They need to have the problems that they're gonna have based on their actions, not ours. I'm gonna vote not to accept this. I'm gonna make a motion not to accept this.
Tim, I know you're dealing with Colette a lot now.
I guess my question to Christie would be, what was the nature of, I didn't even get to see these, so the 430 amendment, what was the nature of that? Was there a result of the COVID, or?
No. It was
just-
on the schedules in the back. The schedules show how certain things like net operating income per the redevelopment agreement. And so at the bottom of the form, they define what the redevelopment agreement says about how to calculate that. So it added information.
So they didn't change the numbers, they just made a
No,
note?
they didn't change numbers.
And the
They just
purpose of
added
it,
some explanatory material.
But I guess the other part that disturbs me is just that, granted, it's an audit and it's being provided to us, but that you're not receiving any of the underlying documentation for.
Well, that is common. I mean,
But we have a right to independently
we
verify it,
do
given
if
our.
we had concerns,
Mhm.
but that's not something we would do on a routine basis.
But given the numbers, absent the explanation that was
This
Well,
isn't abnormal in the audit world to get these types of
30 minutes,
Changes.
an hour and a half before a vote? It's not, it's
Yeah,
not
we get this on
uncommon?
our audits too. You just don't have, we don't have to bring it to you like this.
Christy, did he even give you a red line copy of what was changed in it so you could see exactly what he changed?
No, we did have to go
Let's see.
through it to find it.
And do we have technology that can compare two things together that shows what the changes are? Because I know that's available.
No.
Okay, I believe I do have a motion on the floor.
Can
Do
I
have a
amend it? Can we
second?
just table this until the next meeting and come back and we'll vote on it then?
We could do that.
That's my motion, is to table this.
I think that's fine.
Okay, second?
I've got a motion I've got a motion to table and I got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? It's tabled and, I guess, Ms. Barron,
We'll bring it back.
please, communicate our displeasure with this last minute change and, there's very obvious issues that, you know, and
Yeah, I agree.
again, amendments at the last minute, you really don't give us the time, don't give you the time to.
No, they don't. And I
So-
agree with you.
All right.
I'm more worried about her having the time to go through
Well,
it than.
sure.
Well, she's gonna have to
Yeah,
do it
that's the
anyway, and
point.
an
I
amendment
know.
comes up,
Yeah.
she'd have to do it at some point anyway. It's truly not fair for them to ask one of our, and this is gonna sound bad, because every one of our employees are key. But right now, our finance director is extraordinarily key with all the budgeting issues that we've got. We're in the middle of a budget. It's truly unfair for something she's already gone through to then an hour and a half, and you didn't even have that much time as you had to get this printed and the packets put together. It's truly unfair to Christie for them to do this. And what I hope that we did is we sent a warning to Grant Thornton to get off their butts and do it right going forward, at least when it comes to the city of Midwest City. I don't care about any other municipality.
Okay,
All right.
that motion or that item is tabled. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move into our public discussion of the Development Authority. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? We do have an executive session attached to this agenda. Mr. Lyons, would you care to read that?
Yes, D1, executive session, discussion, consideration of one, entering to executive session is allowed under 25 Oklahoma Statute, Section 307C11, to confer on matters pertaining to economic development, including the transfer of property, financing, or the creation of a proposal to entice a business to remain or to locate within the city. And 2, an open discussion authorizing the general manager, administrator to take action as appropriate based on the discussion in executive session.
Move to recess from the Special Economic Development Authority agenda.
I have a motion to recess. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're hereby recessed from the Economic Development, and I call to order the Midwest City Municipal Hospital Authority. You got it? Okay. We do have a consent agenda attached to this. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees by unanimous consent can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of the trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item be removed and heard in regular order, Chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of addendum number 4.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We do have one discussion item attached to this agenda. Mr. Lyon.
Do we need to table addendum number 4 for the record?
Discussion item, we have no action required.
No action required. Ladies and gentlemen, we move into our new business public discussion of our agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the Hospital Authority? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. Chair would entertain a motion to reconvene the city council agenda.
Second.
We're now reconvened, and now I need to entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go in executive session for city council.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
At this time, I'd ask
Abstention.
everyone